What's up, guys? Blade Master here, back with some more Total War Rome 2 online action. I'm fighting up against Minka from the IPL clan, and I've taken Syracuse, and he's decided to take Armenia as a counter pick. Very interesting matchup, and while the two armies are going to move up, I'm going to do a bit of pre-match and faction analysis. So Syracuse versus Armenia. It's going to be pretty interesting because Syracuse itself is a very underpowered faction in terms of the faction ranking. I would definitely class it as something like a low tier faction, not very good at all. After the mercenary companions got nerfed, they really lost their effectiveness and their edge in battle. And on top of that, Balearic Slingers also got capped because they were mercenary units, so that's kind of limited their skirmish options as well. So what they are right now is an Athens with not as good hoplites and poorer skirmishers, but with access to like Samnite warriors, which really isn't good enough on their own to justify bringing this faction. But they can actually make for a pretty interesting Eastern faction counter. And remember, I was talking to you guys about about Epirus being a potential Eastern faction counter, and why I said that was because they had access to mercenary Italian cavalry, mercenary Samnite warriors, mercenary Etruscan hoplites, and Rhodian slingers as well. So Syracuse has access to all of these units except for Rhodian slingers. They get replaced by the slightly more inferior but just as capable Balearic slingers. But the one glaring weakness that Epirus had when talking about it as a counter to Eastern factions was that all of its general choices were very weak units, in that they were units that whose weakness were getting charged at by cataphracts, whose weaknesses were getting shot at by skirmishers, and those are the strengths of Eastern factions. Now, Syracuse, on the other hand, doesn't have that weakness, which actually makes it a very effective Eastern faction counter, because they have access to Thorax hoplites, Hippeus lancers, and picked hoplites as general choices. Now, no one ever is going to pick a Hippeus Lancer General as a general choice, especially when you're going to go up against Eastern factions, because they'll easily get charged at by cataphracts and they'll get slaughtered in the process. So that still leaves you with two very good choices. Thorax Hoplites, who are a very cost-effective, nice, tanky, mid-tier hoplite unit with good armor, and the picked hoplites, which are one of the tankiest, strongest hoplite units in the game. They don't have the greatest armor like shield bearers or royal Spartans do, but they're still a very, very capable force, and they can definitely take on cataphracts or something and not get slaughtered by them, and actually do pretty well against them. So with that being said, let's take a look at the army builds. With Syracuse, I've taken one militia hoplite up in front. I've also gone with a very tanky line, expecting a cataphract-heavy Armenian army. I've gone with 3 mercenary Etruscan hoplites and 3 mercenary Samnite warriors, and they're going to be interspersed between each other. I've also brought a couple more militia hoplites on the flanks, 1 light hoplite behind them on my left flank, and 1 Thorea spear behind my main line on my right flank. And I've also brought 3 Balearic slingers, a total of 3 mercenary Italian cavalry, 1 picked hoplites general, and 1 Tarentine cavalry. Now, Minka, on the other hand, has brought kind of a counter to my counter. He has brought a very axe-heavy army, probably anticipating that I brought a very hoplite-heavy army to counter, Armenia's potential cataphracts. So instead, he's brought a total of 6 Kartli axemen. He's brought a total of 2 regular axemen, 4 hillmen, 1 noble spearman general, 2 mercenary Cappadocians on his right flank, and 2 noble bloodcap on his left flank, and a total of 2 horse archers, with 1 eastern spearman behind his entire line. So a very interesting build choice from Minka, pretty risky, but it could definitely go up against, or at least go toe-to-toe with my, army. If I had brought more hoplites expecting a more cataphract-heavy army, then I could most likely would have gotten slaughtered. But I have brought 3 mercenary Samnite warriors who would actually do quite well against his Kartli axemen. Definitely would do very well. By the way, we're fighting in the map of Methalan, and this is north-south with the winter setting enabled. Very beautiful map, and it's kind of like Nemerisena in that it's very flat track, but it does have a couple of hills that actually provide a pretty nice little line of sight advantage to your opponent. My opponent hasn't moved at all, which means that I get a slight downhill advantage, but I have been rushing with my units, so they were active like a couple seconds ago. So his Kartli axemen will obviously outmatch my mercenary Etruscan hoplites. He hasn't brought a single cataphract. I really expected him to bring at least a cataphract general, and he's instead brought a noble spearman general, who in themselves are pretty decent, but they're just not worth it. Like, I don't think they're very worth it. Maybe if they got a mass increase and they were a very heavy spear infantry, they could actually be pretty decent, but at the moment they're just not all that strong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep kiting back with my main line, and try and get some kills with my mercenary Belarus slingers before the main engagement happens, and at least whittle down the HP of some of his units. My Thoria space could be pretty essential in this matchup. They need to get some kills on his horse archers and on his noble blood cav. He has got me outmatched in the cavalry regiment, because these Italian cavalry, their main use when fighting up against an eastern faction is to catch fleeing cataphracts, and with their 15 bonus versus large, get a lot of kills very quickly. But against his noble blood cav and his mercenary Cappadocians, who themselves have 15 bonus versus large, are great melee cavalry by their own regard, and have better melee attack and basically outclass my mercenary Italian cavalry in that front. My cavalry will just not do anything at all. So I'm going to have to count on my hoplites to do the work, and I will most likely get rear charged sooner rather than later. But as for now, my Belarus slingers are going to get some shots in. This is pretty interesting. I kept one of my militia hoplites in front while I carried back with the rest of my army, so that I could hold off some of his hoplites, some of his axemen. Here I'm going to charge in with my Italian cavalry onto the front of his Kartli axemen, get a proper charge in, and then time that in beautifully with my mercenary Samnite warriors. And that's going to be the same thing over here. I've left one Italian cavalry behind just to try and attack some of his noble blood cav who are behind my lines already. I'm also going to run away with one of my Tarentine cav, starting to get some shots on his mercenary Cappadocians. And I'm also going to pull back with my Belarus slingers and my other Italian cav. They've only taken 2 casualties, but you can see the damage that they've done. Only 1 casualty with my Samnite warriors, and they're starting to rack up the kills. Already 20 kills on them. Kartli axemen getting slaughtered in the process. And this Italian cavalry is still engaged with this Kartli axemen unit, but my Samnite warriors are definitely going to get the upper hand in that engagement. I needed to have popped hoplite phalanx on my militia hoplites so that they could have held out these 2 Kartli axemen. They're actually doing a pretty good job in that they've just kind of stopped his units, and I'm able to engage his units kind of like piecemeal. Here, my light hoplites are being engaged by his hillmen, so they will start getting slaughtered pretty quickly. I'm going to use my Italian cavalry to tie down one more of his hillmen unit. They'll get a pretty decent charge here, just so that they can stop attacking my Belarus slingers. Here, his noble blood cav have killed off one of my Italian cavalry, but my Thoria spear were busy just showering javelins onto these noble blood cavalry in the process. They're already down to only 25 units, and I'm going to charge in with my Italian cavalry over here onto his hillmen, and they'll probably get a lot of casualties in the process. Yeah, 100 units left. But here, my Samnites are going to do a good job. My militia hoplites died and routed, and now my Samnites over here are going to engage already depleted Kartli axemen and eastern spearmen. Here, the Samnites have actually gotten the better of his Kartli axemen with only 22 casualties. And my picked hoplites general has to be forced into action here, charging against his hillmen. But meanwhile, my Belarus slingers over here are going to start getting some very easy kills on his horse archers. Meanwhile, his Cappadocian cav over here have engaged my Tarentine cav. Actually, this is great for me, because these Tarentine cav just managed to lower these Cappadocians off to the rest of to the other side of the map, while the rest of the engagement is taking place over here. I've popped battle rhythm and hoplite phalanx on my picked hoplites. They've been attacked in the rear by axemen, but they're going to kill off this hillman very quickly. And if his mercenary Cappadocians cav decides to start attacking my picked hoplites, they'll start getting slaughtered very quickly here. I've rear charged with one of my Samnite warriors onto his Kartli axemen, and his Cappadocian cav over there have killed off my Tarentine cav. Here I rear charged his hillmen with my extra Italian cavalry. They still have 24 units left, and this should be a perfect opportunity for me to get a rear charge onto his noble spearman general, who have counter-charged my Etruscan hoplites. So yeah, I'm going to rear charge these units. Since they're only heavy infantry, they'll probably take a couple of casualties in the process. His hillmen are actually back from routing. Actually, they were only waving, they never routed, which is bad for me. But these Etruscan hoplites doing a very good job holding off these Kartli axemen, but now they're going to get rear charged by noble blood cavalry. These Samnites, on the other hand, are going to do very well against these Kartli axemen. They've got the upper hand, and this Samnite unit is just going to be a testament to the tankiness of these units, just taking on a ton of units, even though they got attacked in the rear. That extra super high HP that they have with that high armor is really going to come into play there. My picked hoplites as well, just the definition of tankiness, killing off his axemen. His axemen is starting to waver here, and They're just brilliant units. I really like elite tier hoplites here in this game. They're actually very nice. I don't know why not enough people take them. Probably because they take their kills they take too long to get their kills, but they're still a very good unit. My Thuria Spear is getting 37 kills here, killing off some more of his Cappadocian Cav. Meanwhile, my Beleri Slingers are starting to get a lot of kills. Just running away and killing off some more of his units. Sam Knight's over here, killing off the rest of his Kartli Axemen. I'm going to get another charge onto the rear of. I'm going to get charged again onto the rear of my Mercenary Etruscan Hoplites by his Noble Blood Cavalry, but they're very depleted at the moment. I've rear charged his Noble Spearman General with my Sam Knight Warriors in the process. In the meanwhile, 170 kills, almost a double experience chevron on them. My picked hoplites here are just not. They're doing good. They're doing really well actually. 145 kills on to some really pretty good armor piercing units with axemen and stuff. But they're getting shot at in the rear by those horse archers. Not good for me. And here his hillmen have finally routed to my to my light hoplites. They took a ton of casualties in the process, but now they still are at half strength. And what I should do immediately is just charge into these horse archers. The general recently died, which is a huge boost for me. I got a rear charge with my Mercenary Sam Knight Warriors onto them. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to put rapid advance onto my light hoplites so that they can just chase after these horse archers so that they can stop. Please stop attacking my picked hoplites general. 164 kills with them, still 64 units remaining. Thuria Spears over here doing a great job holding off the rest of his units. 40 units left on his Mercenary Cappadocians, and they've got a double experience chevron, but the rest of his units are starting to waver now. It's actually not looking very good for Minka, simply because his general died. And these Thuria Spears doing a good job just holding off the rest of these Kartli Axemen. Now his Mercenary Cappadocians really have no place to go. They're going to get caught by my Mercenary Etruscan Hoplites, and that 20 bonus versus large is really going to come into play there. They'll start getting a lot of kills very quickly, I think. Yeah, 114. They're actually starting to lose a couple of men. My Sam Knight Warriors losing this battle, but they just took forever in losing, and they've just got a lot of kills as well. It's a very tanky unit coming up against units that don't really have very good melee stats. That weapon damage of 26, although a lot of it is armor piercing, it's still a pretty low amount of weapon damage. Combine that with against a unit that has 65 health, like the best in-game health, or among the best in-game health, and those axemen really wouldn't do too much. Now my light hoplites were just chasing after his horse archers. They're going to keep chasing after them. They're now super exhausted because I used rapid advance, but that's all that there is to this game. His Minka's risky counter to my counter didn't really work for him. Costly victory to me. The only reason I managed to win was because I got a rear charge onto his general and killed them off. And my Sam Knights just did brilliantly. 249, 151, 184 kills with them. 156 and 142 kills with my Mercenary Etruscan Hoplites as well. Just goes to show the initial charge from those Italian cavalry really played a huge part in this game. It really killed off a lot of his axemen. 43 kills on one of his axemen, 25 on the other. Those were probably the two units that got charged at initially by my cavalry. And then leaving that militia hoplite to soak up the charge of two of his Kartli axemen is also a pretty good move. And definitely tilted the game in my favor. Beleri Slingers did a pretty decent job. Probably whittled down a lot of HP of those Kartli Axemen so that my Sam Knights and Etruscans could get a lot of kills. And my picked hoplites just proving their tankiness, proving their worth, and just killed off a lot of his units, even though they got rear charged multiple times. Anyways, guys, that's the end of this battle. Hope you enjoyed it and stay tuned for more. Peace.